All right, we're going to get started. Let me begin by introducing the individuals who are with us here today. To my left, we have School Board Member Ms. Maritere Rojas, and to my right, we have School Board Member Dr. Martin Karp, and senior staff members of our school system. They are here they will be, in case there is a question specific to a division in the school system, that they can address directly. Let me begin by stating the obvious. There is not, at this point, a single confirmed case or presumptive case of COVID-19 impacting a student or an employee of the school system. That's an important statement for me to begin with. The widely reported incident impacting Miami Beach Senior High School actually got out because of the actions we took. We notified every single parent of students at that school, letting them know that in accordance with our protocol, any one entity who would return from an area of potential impact was to self-report. What you cannot anticipate sometimes is that within the United States of America, perhaps days or weeks after certain travel, you may come across a point of coincidence, such as an individual who happened to have stayed at a hotel where an individual with a case had stayed at some point. But there isn't a single case, confirmed case of COVID-19 impacting directly or indirectly employees or students in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. What we're about to do today is lay out, quite frankly, a number of procedures, practices, advice specific to students, employees, as well as parents, in addition to a number of steps that we've taken at the federal level, state, as well as local levels. First, as of today, teaching and learning continues without any disruption to classroom instruction, after-school, extracurricular activities, or sports activities in all schools in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Otherwise said, it is a regular school day at MDCPS. The latest information obtained from the state of Florida, and this includes direct conversations with the Commissioner of Education, as well as health officials, position young people, students, at the lowest level of risk as far as the population of our state and the country are concerned. With that said, we've implemented a number of proactive steps to continue to protect our staff, our students, and the well-being of our community. Number one, speaking about sanitation at school sites and work locations. We have issued directives to every single principal, every single administrator regarding promoting personal hygiene. We've disseminated that widely across the entire school system, as well as enhanced cleaning protocols. What that means is intensifying the cleaning cycles. If a building, a certain site, was cleaned once a day, the cleaning cycle may now intensify to 2 to 3 times a day. In case of need, hourly, should the conditions actually require it. This applies also to school buses. All head and lead custodians in our school system, every one of them, was trained on enhanced cleaning techniques as well as sanitization of areas pre, during, and post-emergency should the occurrence occur. We prepare for this well in advance, and we actually have a stock, a surplus of cleaning and sanitization equipment as well as supplies worth close to half a year over and above what we usually consume. We ordered and have already received specialized equipment for the cleaning and sanitization of sites should we require it. In addition to that, we have collaborated with the county government, with Mayor Jimenez, and he has offered, should we need additional staff, should we need SWAT teams of sanitization entities or equipment and supplies, the county is ready to assist us. In other words, we have what we need in case of an emergency, in case of aggressive cleanup requirements. We are recognizing during times of emergency or potential emergency communication is critically important. Therefore, effective tomorrow, the District School Operations Command Center which is usually reserved for emergencies like hurricanes, shall be partially activated. That means that all inquiries regarding COVID-19 can be directed to our hotline at 305-995-3000. That hotline, again, will not be active until first thing tomorrow morning. We also have created, and we have been designing this for a while, a dedicated web page designed to provide the most current information regarding COVID-19 to MDCPS stakeholders. The website is covid19.dadeschools.net. We shall utilize this web page to provide information not only to our community of learners, meaning students, our workforce, their parents, community partners, but also the media. It is our intention to place on this website information as it is made known to us. You will not need to go and search for it. We will place what we can disclose there, and that information is information that meets the strictest guidelines of HIPAA and FERPA, which delineate privacy rights associated with medical information as well as personally identifiable information regarding students and their families. We encourage all of our community stakeholders to periodically monitor that website. An important point, we continue to deal, not at an elevated level, but we continue to deal with rumors, and I think that's unfortunately unavoidable, regarding cancellation of certain activities. Sometimes the Archdiocese programs are confused for our own, and people have confusion about what's open or what's closed. I want to reaffirm once again that all of our programs in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, programs locally administered, are ongoing and active without any cessation or disturbance. But I encourage everyone to consult the website that I just announced for the most updated information. I want to talk about student attendance and travel. This is probably the one area where we have received the most inquiries. People are concerned about whether or not the field trip that had been planned, that they had paid for, is still on. What happens with a professional travel that was scheduled with students out of the state? What happens with a number of activities beyond the state's border? What is going on regarding this type of event? We took a bit of time, not excessive time, but a bit of time to really contemplate all the scenarios. We consulted at every level with the Department of Health to be in absolute agreement with their recommendations following a risk assessment series of questions. And lastly, we consulted also with the State Department of Education in direct conversations with not only the Chancellor of Education, but also the Commissioner of Education. And I have to say, I've been through a lot of emergencies, a lot of preparation. The level of communication has been nonstop. Multiple daily conversations with the Commissioner, with the Chancellor, so that the state is aware of what we're doing, and the state is helpful in terms of providing guidance to what we believe is the best course of action. So here is the specific guidance for students in Miami-Dade County Public Schools regarding attendance and travel. First of all out-of-county field trips have been canceled until further notice. Out of country, I'm sorry. All out-of-country field trips have been canceled until further notice. Based on guidance provided by the Florida Department of Education, an immediate moratorium has been placed on all out-of-state air travel. Next, all in-county as well as in-state field trips. In-county as well as in-state field trips. That includes athletic events and activities not requiring air travel are being evaluated on a case-by-case basis. There is no general guidance for all of them. We evaluate each one individually. Parents received information regarding self-isolation protocols for students if they may have had direct or indirect exposure to the virus, either by recently returning from an area with a current advisory or residing in the same household as an individual who returned from said area. We're going to continue to re-emphasize that important point. Students and parents who have returned from warning level areas or cruise travel exhibiting symptoms are to contact the health department immediately. It is not the recommendation of the health department or the state Department of Health that they contact their primary care physician. If you went to a designated hotspot in the world, and there are 7 such zones, including Italy, Iran, including South Korea, Japan, China, Hong Kong, if you visited those areas, or you were on a cruise ship and are currently exhibiting symptoms, our guidance based on information from the state and local health departments is not for you to contact your doctor or to go directly to the hospital. You are to contact the Department of Health. Students are continuously encouraged to remain at home if they are sick, and they are to seek medical attention. This is a general advisement for students who are not involved in travel, who are not on cruises. If you're sick, regardless of your condition, regardless of your symptoms, even if you think it's a common cold or the flu, stay home, don't come to school. You'll hear me say the same thing about our employees. And by the way, this is guidance that we have been providing to our community now for weeks. This is not the time to strive for perfect attendance. All perfect attendance incentives and recognitions for students have been suspended and will remain suspended for the remainder of the academic year. We have continued our proactive choice to direct new students, and this is critically important, new students arriving in our school system from overseas, first time in our school system. And I have to tell you, for those of you who do not know, we register up to 150 students weekly coming from other countries into our schools. The previous practice was that any parent could enroll their child in the local school. The registration process would take place at the local school. We believe it is prudent to abandon that practice and, into the foreseeable future, conduct enrollment procedures at 2 new student centers, one in the north and one in the south. For safety, precaution, and health reasons, and to expedite the enrollment process for foreign-born students, not only will we have school administrators processing the registration, but we will also have a certified health professional to be part of the intake process. Obviously, we are interested in knowing some degree of history associated with that child and the family. Country of origin, stopping points on the way to Miami prior to them being readily admitted to our schools. I want to reemphasize, however, every single child, native-born or foreign-born, has a right, a legally protected right to a high-quality education. We're just adding this additional step for the registration process. Specific to employee attendance and travel, all district sponsored travel for staff to areas with travel advisories or declared public health emergencies is at this moment canceled. I want to be clear about this. That applies to 7 nations or areas, because Hong Kong is part of China, but it is seen differently as far as the State Department is concerned. Also applies to the next lower level in terms of warning, which is individuals who may have taken a trip on a cruise ship. Employees have received over the past weeks information regarding self-isolation if they may have had direct or indirect exposure to the virus. Emergency short-term leave procedures have been developed for those employees. What that means is, if you were overseas without knowing, you return, you now find yourself in a position where you are required to self-isolate up to 14 days based on the incubation period known to be specific to COVID-19. You stay home, the district is prepared and ready to actually pay your wages during that self-isolation period. This is important for one critical reason. We do not want people fearing a loss of pay, therefore they come to work having returned from a risky area. We want truth and disclosure, and if we remove the threat of pay cessation, we believe we will be much more effective. Some additional information regarding specific business operations. We are a massive school system that relies on private sector partners. At any given point, we have maintenance workers, we have construction workers who are doing bond implementation, AC technicians, technologists in our schools who are not our employees. We have volunteers, we have contractors, we have mentors. They have been pre-screened and approved by the public school system. We are directing information to all of these entities, ensuring that they are held to the same CDC guidelines and district guidelines. Meaning, if you are a private sector entity or a volunteer and you experience symptoms, or if you recently traveled, we will treat you the same way we would treat our employee, obviously with the exception of pay. It is critically important for every one of these entities to follow the same exact protocols. We are reviewing the facilities agreements in place right now with many entities that utilize our buildings in the evening or weekends. And we stand ready to cease those engagements should there be heightened risk associated with their use. Or should that school, for whatever reason, be shut down in the unlikely scenario, then that contract comes to an end at that point as well. We have ensured that critical business functions such as payroll, procurement, and many others are protected and can continue and be operated remotely, even in the case of a long-term district-wide shutdown. I want to be clear about this. We have systems in place whose redundancy allow us to process payroll for close to 50,000 employees remotely without people actually having to come into the office. It is a fail-safe process that allows for that. Obviously, this is important in case of a massive shutdown, which is extremely unlikely. Extremely unlikely. It is applicable to the shutdown of a single school. We can process payroll and take care of business from a distance. Critically important also is we are at this point monitoring at the federal level and state level opportunities for federal economic relief as needed. Make no mistake about this. There will be a midterm recognition of worsening financial conditions statewide that have the potential to dramatically impact revenues as we know them. We are already working with entities to secure federal assistance as that federal assistance is rolled out, approved, and appropriated. Just because there's a possibility that a single classroom, a portion of a building, a school, a collection of schools, or a more dramatic shutdown of the system, since that is a possibility, as unlikely as it may be, we began preparing for that eventuality and created an instructional continuity plan. What that means is we have resources, both curated over years, generated, developed internally, as well as acquired from the private sector, for both core content as well as standards aligned grade level and grade appropriate content, in addition to supplemental resources to provide continuous learning via digital resources online, anytime, anywhere in the school system. We've done so through three important steps. Number one, the curation, as I said, of resources, digital content, core and supplemental. Secondly, the fact that we have access to over 200,000 devices that can be placed in the hands of students with appropriate contracts after a survey, which is ongoing right now, is done with parents to determine the technological needs in every single home in Miami-Dade. Thirdly, because connectivity is a challenge in some neighborhoods, we have the ability to create hotspots in the home of every single parent who may not have ready internet access. We have set up also a dedicated website specific to the dissemination and facilitation of this remote learning plan, and it can be viewed, it is live at icp.dadeschools.net, instructional continuity plan.dadeschools.net. I can tell you that since we have uploaded it, the state has already recognized it as the best practice and is now disseminating it to other districts across the state. We have ventured now into conversations with labor groups. Obviously, during a time of emergency, the district will do what the district needs to do, but we'd like to work through cooperation and consultation. We've already had very positive interactions with two significant labor groups, United Teachers of Dade and AFSCME. Why? Those are the two groups mostly responsible for teaching and learning and sanitation. They are aware of our protocols. We will continue to have informational sessions with every single work group or labor group in our school system. It is not lost to us that we need to intensify, we're doing so, professional development opportunities, particularly for teachers who may at some point be engaged in remote teaching and learning with their students. The state, I can tell you, is rapidly navigating in that direction, attempting to fully maximize the use of Florida Virtual, which right now provides education to 40,000 students statewide. They are potentially ramping it up to a total of 400,000 over time, should a need arise. Moving forward, number one, March 17th is an election day. Our schools are used as polling sites. We've already devised plans so that March 17th, voters shall be separated from the general school population. Allocated space, special entrance, everything will be segregated from the general school population. Once the polling stations close, the voting areas will be cleaned and sanitized by our staff, and if we need additional assistance, in collaboration with the county. These times bring about heightened awareness and with it often additional stress and anxiety, both for employees and students. We are utilizing the recently constituted mental health department as well as school counseling staff to provide needed assistance to students who may have a difficult time dealing with uncertainty or the evolving nature of this virus. In addition to that, we have activated additional resources for our employee assistance program to assist employees of our school system who may in fact require additional emotional support, as perhaps one of their family members or others may be impacted by this evolving issue. In the unlikely case of the shutdown of a school, a classroom, a school, a number of schools, or district-wide, we have the capacity and the willingness, as we've done during hurricane shutdown, to provide meals to our children. 73% of children in Miami-Dade live at or below the poverty level. We know if we shut down schools, they will go without eating. Many of them will go without eating. That is not a condition that we find acceptable to anyone. Therefore, we are prepared to distribute meals through a variety of different means. It can be a pick up and go situation at specific sites to the areas impacted. At the same time, I have already advocated with the Commissioner of Education and federal entities for a temporary relaxation of the food and nutrition federal guidelines that require the input of numbers, that restrict the meal for that specific student. We want maximum flexibility to be able to feed not only the child, but the entire family. My friends, this is an evolving situation. We will continue to provide updates and information via social media, traditional media, through the websites, dedicated websites that we have created. Students and parents will be able to contact us with specific questions or requests for services, whether it is counseling support or nutrition needs should there be a shutdown, through our hotline at 305-995-3000, which will be active tomorrow. And we will also continually update the website with the latest announcements at covid19.dadeschools.net. I'd like to close the way I started. It is a regular school day for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. All locally administered education, planned activities, clubs, extracurricular activities continue as planned, continue as normal. The most significant alterations have to do with student and employee travel. First of all, just to reiterate, travel outside of the country to hot spots declared by the State Department put us in a position of enforcing a self-isolation of employees and strong recommendation for self-isolation of students in our public school system. Travel outside of the state of Florida via air to attend student events, field trips, or, for the case of employees, professional association conferences where we expect large groups of individuals are canceled. For in-county as well as in-state activities, those are analyzed on the basis of a risk assessment on a case-by-case basis. It is a regular school day. And the last thing I'll say is that at this point, there isn't a single confirmed case or a presumptive case directly impacting a student to the best of our knowledge or an employee. I am not ready at this point, nor do I believe I will ever be ready to confirm or deny if and when the case appears of a student or an employee, confirm or deny. That confirmation shall be done through the Department of Health locally. So we will provide information regarding an entity or entities in a school, but we will never be able to confirm the identity of a child or the parent of a child that may be the cause for a potential shutdown of a classroom, a school, or a group of schools. That's information that is confirmed through the Department of Health locally. I believe we have developed a comprehensive plan that addresses, if not all of the issues known to us at this point. This is an evolving and fluid situation. We know what we need to know. We don't really know what we don't know yet. It is possible that in addition to the hot spots across the globe, in addition to the cruise line industries, whether or not there will be another risk factor that's added at the State Department level. As that happens, we will recalibrate our protocols and our plan. Let me take a breather. Any questions?
Are there any in-state or in-county, in-state field trips that may be on the line or that you've talked about that you may cancel?
There are some trips that we're paying close attention to, and as I said, whether they are outside of the state or in-state, if they involve large gathering of students, I can tell you based on the advice of local health entities and even the Department of Education, we ought to look at them. That's why I reference those through a lens of individual consideration based on risk assessment and case-by-case examination. I'm not going to speculate as to what those will be. I can tell you that we have a number of them lined up. I know at some point earlier today, Facebook went live with the fact that we were canceling all field trips. That is absolutely not the case. What we are canceling is out-of-state trips for both employees would attend conferences. And by the way, most professional conferences that are of interest to us, they're being canceled one after the other. So we expect that to continue.
Are you
I would recommend that that information be obtained from the Department of Health. I can tell I'm familiar with a handful of individuals across the 355,000 students in Miami-Dade County Public Schools who are related to somebody who may be of interest, not because they are a presumptive case, but because they may have had direct or indirect contact at some level. But that's as far as I will go. The rest of the information is best obtained from the Department of Health.
Has the Miami Beach high school administrator been tested?
I cannot speak to that. But I can tell you, in the near future, I will know. The reason why I cannot speak to it is I am familiar with the fact that the individual's name has gotten out. So even though this is not a FERPA issue, it now becomes a HIPAA issue. So I'm boxed in as far as some information is concerned because of privacy rights specific to health information or privacy rights of students and parents.
Going back to your sick leave policy for contract employees, did you say
Yeah.
that those employees, the contract employees, they would get paid or would not get paid?
Now, so we have contracts with the vast majority, if not all, of our private sector contracts, if we hold them to the same standard. And by the same standard, I mean, look, if you have somebody who works for a construction company and just returned from northern Italy, we expect that individual to follow the same protocols we have for our employees if they have direct contact with our staffs. It is very typical for us to have literally not just dozens, hundreds if not thousands of construction workers, engineers, architects, project managers in our schools. Volunteers. We have literally dozens of thousands of volunteers in our school system. It is critical for us to pass on that information. So for private sector entities, no, we're not in the position, on the basis of our contracts, of paying them for work not performed.